Okay, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly why the skies over Maharashtra are completely empty, when, honestly, they should be pouring. If you live anywhere in the region, you've probably noticed that the usual rhythm of the season is just off. So we're going to look at the hard data and expert analysis to figure out what's causing this severe dry spell. But more importantly, we'll talk about what we can all do to prepare for the ripple effects that are absolutely going to hit our economy and our daily lives.
You know, if you've been looking up at those cloudless skies and wondering where on earth the monsoon has gone, you definitely aren't alone. June is ending, so where is the rain? Normally, by the end of May or early June, the monsoon has made its grand entrance, right? It brings that life-saving water to our agricultural lands and refills our urban reservoirs. But right now, we're seeing a massive delay. The clouds are scarce, and the anxiety is, for sure, building up. To understand why our local weather is failing us, we actually have to look far beyond our own borders.
Section 1. The Global Villains, Decoding the Weather. To really grasp our local crisis, we have to look at the massive global weather phenomena that are essentially hijacking our rain.
So the crucial point here is that when the Pacific Ocean warms by even half a degree to 2 degrees, it acts like a massive roadblock for the winds that bring rain to India. This is El Niño. A fun, yet kind of ironic fact for you, El Niño is Spanish for little boy or Christ child, because this warming typically peaks around Christmas near the coast of South America. But for us in India, it brings absolutely no gifts, only drought. Experts are noting that we're facing a super El Niño, the likes of which we haven't seen in decades, and there's an 80% chance it'll severely disrupt our weather cycle all the way through November.
Think of it like a broken supply chain for our weather. El Niño literally stops the delivery of our rain mid-route. Under normal conditions, cold water rises in the Pacific, pushing these strong winds loaded with moisture right toward us. But El Niño completely weakens that engine. The warm water stays put, the winds stall, and those heavy rain clouds, they just dump their moisture over the ocean instead of over our farmlands.
Now, sometimes we have a backup generator of sorts, called the Indian Ocean Dipole, or IOD. When one side of our own Indian Ocean is warmer than the other, it can actually push rain toward us, counteracting El Niño. But this year, the IOD is completely neutral. That means it's neither a friend nor an enemy. It's just sitting on the sidelines, leaving the destructive El Niño totally unchecked.
And, well, as if El Niño wasn't enough, scientists are also tracking this cold blob in the Atlantic, which is making global weather patterns even more erratic. We're talking about a highly unusual weather anomaly that hasn't been seen in about 170 years. Basically, melting ice from Greenland is dumping massive amounts of freezing fresh water into the ocean, and it's totally disrupting the warm currents. When you combine this cold blob with the super El Niño, you get a perfect recipe for global weather chaos: heat waves, droughts, and entirely unpredictable rainfall patterns.
History is the best proof we have here. Look at the track record. Every recent El Niño year has guaranteed a grueling drought for Maharashtra. In 2002, a 19% rainfall deficit devastated crops. In 2009, it was 22%. Now, people sometimes think a 10 or 15% drop in rain doesn't sound like a massive deal. But in a state where over 50% of agriculture relies entirely on rainwater, a double-digit deficit translates to an absolute catastrophe for food production. Which brings us to an alarming number, 90%. The Meteorological Department expects we'll only receive 90% of our usual rainfall this season. That marks an 11-year low. This isn't just a slight dip, it's a massive gap in our state's water budget that's going to force us to make some really difficult decisions in the coming months.
Let's move on to Section 2, the micro-impact, threats to daily life. It's really easy to think of this purely as a farming issue. But the reality is, the shockwaves of a missing monsoon hit the concrete jungle just as hard.
Monsoon clouds basically act as a giant sunshade. Without that cloud cover, the sun beats directly down on us, sparking intense heat waves, particularly in Vidarbha and Marathwada. The ground just bakes. Because of this, the Meteorological Department has issued severe heat wave warnings. If you live in these high-risk regions, the advice is very clear. Avoid the afternoon sun, stay hydrated, and please check in on the elderly and young children.
It is absolutely vital to understand that dry fields equal expensive groceries and dry household taps. Less rain means less rice, wheat, and pulses, which instantly drives up market prices. Plus, think about our dams. They aren't just for drinking water, they generate our electricity. Lower water levels mean a drop in hydroelectric power, which ultimately translates to power cuts and soaring utility bills for us city dwellers.
Section 3. Smart Strategies for Farmers. Now that we understand the scope of the problem, let's pivot to proactive survival.
The state government has set up a special task force, and their top advice for farmers is to absolutely avoid rushing the sowing process until very specific moisture conditions are met. Panic sowing is the biggest risk right now. If a farmer plants seeds after just one light shower, those seeds are going to die when the long dry spells return. That forces them into the massive financial burden of buying seeds and sowing a second time. Patience here isn't just a virtue, it's an economic necessity.
Another game changer is switching from water-heavy crops to traditional, low-water alternatives. Planting sugarcane or rice during an El Niño year is incredibly risky because they are notoriously thirsty crops. Shifting to robust, drought-resistant crops like baja, jowar, or native cotton requires a fraction of the water, grows beautifully in tough conditions, and keeps the farm profitable.
Utilizing modern irrigation and mulching techniques ensures that every single drop of water is maximized while keeping the soil temperature regulated. Traditional flood irrigation wastes way too much water to evaporation. Drip systems put water right at the roots, and applying mulching, which is basically layering dry grass or plastic over the soil, locks the moisture in and keeps the blazing heat out. Also, we can't forget the livestock. Planning for extra shade and stocking up on fodder right now will save herds later when the grass dries up completely.
All right, Section 4, how citizens can prepare, because urban dwellers have a massive role to play here too.
The burden of surviving a drought does not just fall on the farmers. It requires a collective shift in how we consume resources. We need to treat household water like liquid gold right now. We must completely stop hosing down cars and driveways. That runoff water from your home RO filter, catch it in a bucket and use it to mop the floors or water the plants. And on a larger scale, housing societies really need to double down on rainwater harvesting systems so whatever little rain we do get goes straight back into replenishing the groundwater.
Now, without hoarding, and I want to emphasize without hoarding, smartly stocking up on essential dry goods now is the best shield against the inevitable food inflation heading our way. We're anticipating a spike in the prices of staples. Buying a 3 to 6 month supply of wheat, lentils, and rice now at current market prices makes really sound financial sense. Just make sure to store them in airtight, dry containers so you don't lose your investment to pests or moisture.
Okay, 24 degrees Celsius. Why is this number important? Well, since low water levels mean less hydroelectric power, setting your AC to this optimal temperature helps prevent grid blackouts while saving you money. When millions of people drop their ACs to 18 degrees, it puts a massive strain on an already struggling power grid. By keeping your thermostat at a comfortable 24 degrees, you are actively preventing rolling blackouts across the city.
We cannot create water, but saving every drop is entirely in our hands. This quote perfectly captures our current reality. We are up against colossal global climate forces, El Niño and the Atlantic cold blob, which are totally out of our control. But the way we manage the resources we have left, that is entirely within our grasp. It's a true test of our collective resilience.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial question. Are you prepared to face the El Niño drought? We know the lack of a storm is coming. Take these strategies, share them with your housing societies, your families, and your local farmers. Knowledge and structured action are our absolute best defense. Stay prepared, stay hydrated, and let's face this challenge smartly.